actions of government, ministries, departments, and agencies and parastatals, as well as business organizations, brands, and health affairs that shape our worldview. The program also encapsulates the personalities and the institutions that make decisions that affect the lives of people one way or the other. And then we also avail you, our listeners, the opportunity of calling into the program and ask questions from our guests on the topic of discussion for the day.
On record.
Every word matters.
It's still on record where every word matters. Now, Nigeria has had leaders which for generations will continue to be mentioned, from nationalists like Nnamdi Azikiwe, Obafemi Awolowo, Herbert Macaulay, Sir Ahmadu Bello, and many other leaders. Now, from the military to the democratic government, there have been some narratives. But from 1999 till date, we have had 24 years of unbroken democracy. Though leadership is a phenomenon that governs every aspect of society, whenever it is mentioned in Nigeria, it is natural for our minds to start directing the process to politics and governance. In that light, let's focus on the forthcoming elections as Nigeria get ready to choose the man or the best man or woman for the job. Elections, they say, is the lifeblood of any democracy. In 31 days from now, Nigeria will be casting their ballots for the 2023 general elections, and 18 candidates are jostling for the #1 seat in the nation, while the search is on in the minds of eligible voters on who the cap will fit. Today, we will be shaping your worldview in your decision-making process. Do you know that your action or inaction at the polls come February 25th will impact you as well as me and maybe people for the next 4 years to come? As the elections are drawing closer by the day, it is of great importance that we have this talk and have it on record that we did. You can join in on the conversation. You can call us on 0700 1021 1021 or send a WhatsApp message to 0907224518. I have some questions for you when you're calling. What kind of leader should govern Nigeria? What qualities do you look out for the kind of leader that will emerge come February 25th, 2023 to govern Nigeria? Do you know that those contesting for the legislative positions in your constituency matter? Do you know them? Or is it only the presidential election that you are going to cast your ballot? Well, those are the questions I asked for our guests who will be calling and joining us via telephone this morning. That we will take a breather here, and when we return from the break, we'll be jumping straight into business. Do stay with us.
G. What's for instance, say I be the one where them give chance. Say I be the one where they make plans. For all man to benefit I be, to make me disagree, to agree to create chance. But now I am not of importance, cause now I am looking from a distance. And that's why he give them the chance to do us and turn us the victim of circumstance. Them just they ignore our existence. They create excuse, they use excuse to buy plans. Them no one knows say we did them, they use us, they play. All we get is a passing glance. Anytime we stand for resistance, when I'm in the act of exploitance, I be we just be living in a trance, Lord. Oh my God, hello, yeah. Be what I feel, it means you feeling my flow, and then you know say it's so. Hello, yeah. In your house, or you in a motor, and you there go slow. Hello, yeah. Feel that this thing is affecting your being and it's killing your soul. Hello, yeah. Hello, yeah. For the thing where you see, they make you holla, oh yeah, holla, oh yeah. See this type of thing when we dey feel, they make me they want to the holla, oh yeah. Even if I want to the cheat, I go still go they want to the holla, oh yeah. Stand, look around you, and I bet you go want to the holla, oh yeah. Holla, oh yeah. For the thing where you see, I make you holla, oh yeah. For instance, say mini ballet of Nigerians. Share go they respect your own stance. Share go create the scenery for better to plenty to they make me they give chance. Instead of to the pack the money go France. They make suffer to full in abundance. They make me to run away to a place where he be say go they feel like to break dance. Where them go respect my skills for instance. Where them go no go just stay they play pranks. On top the people where walk the way. Where give them the key to the door to the substance. When them just they use you with the freelance. They're looting what they give us assurance. Repentance, no they their plans. See they create and no hands for my hands. So holla, oh yeah. Me what I feel it means you feel in my flow. And then you know say it's so holla, oh yeah. In your house, or you in a motor, or you there go slow. Just holla, oh yeah. Feel that this thing is affecting your being and it's killing your soul. Holla, oh yeah. Holla, oh yeah. For the thing where you see will make you holla, oh yeah. Holla, oh yeah. When we they feel, we they make me they want to the oh yeah.
This is radio like you have never known it. High Impact Radio 102.1 FM. Welcome to On Record.
Every word matters.
What I want to do is to take Nigeria from consumption to production.
My name is Mr. Innocent Chuboma. I started by trading on motorcycle strappers.
They really ask, how much is the Nigerian life worth?
Policing is everybody's business, not the business of the men on uniform alone.
We will establish student loan. 4 years course. Must be 4 years course.
When you dispense, a pharmacist dispenses a drug to a patient, the name of the drug must be written on the envelope.
On Record is a 45-minute program where we discuss the actions, inactions of government, ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as business and health affairs that shape our worldview.
Join us 9 a.m. every weekday on your urban lifestyle station, High Impact 102.1 FM. On Record.
Every word matters. On Record.
Every word matters.
The true and sustainable leadership also requires that you have a followership that is enlightened, a followership that calls you to account, a followership that is going to make demands of you, a followership that when you say that you are going to improve the quality of their food, they do not believe that agriculture stops on that day, but they believe that agriculture must be intensified and the technology must be used. A followership which knows that when you say you are going to deliver heaven on earth, they know that that is merely an advertisement that you are incapable of delivering heaven on earth.
On Record.
Every word matters.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us. That was the voice of Professor Patrick Lumumba. He's a professor of law from Kenya. Welcome back. The program is On Record from the stables of High Impact Studios, and this is High Impact 102.1 FM. We are streaming live on YouTube at High Impact 102.1 FM and on Twitter at High Impact 1021 FM. Our guest on the program today is passionate about leadership and good governance, and is a well sought after personality on both television and radio and other platforms on business and economic matters, on issues of public policy, politics, and governance. Is Gbolahan Olojede. Welcome to On Record, Mr. Gbolahan.
Yeah, thank you very much. Nice to be here.
It's good to have you. I know when it was broached that we were talking about leadership, and that my producer said she's bringing you, I knew we were going to be having a good discussion, and I really want Nigerians to participate in this, because Nigerians most times, you know, they are concerned about voting for the man at the helm of affairs at the national level as the president, and yeah, they show some level of patriotism when it comes to voting for the chief executives at the subnational levels, but they never consider those at the legislative arm of government, either at the national or at the state level. And this is the question I'm posing to them. When you call and tell us, are you going to be casting your vote for the people at the legislative arm of government, and why would you be doing that? Have you been doing that before? But now let's go to the topic about discussion. Who is a leader? Is a leader anyone in position of leadership, or is it just someone like we know the normal definition that was given, that the leader is someone who has the power and the capability and the capacity to influence other persons to make decisions they will normally not make? Or who is the leader, Mr. Bola?
At the heart of leadership is influence. So you may have what you call a positional guy, a positional leader, who is there by virtue of the position, but is not able to influence. If you're not able to influence, then you have failed the critical, essential ingredient of being a leader. So the leader comes up with a vision, is the guy who has the vision. Now, for that vision to come to life, you must be able to elicit the support of the people. So you must be able to influence them to be their best and to support that agenda that you want to promote. So once you are able to do that, even if you're not in position, there are people who can do that, but they might not have that position. That is a leader. The critical ingredient is influence. That is what leadership is all about. So if there is a vision and you can influence people to take them to move from where they are to that destination, to that destiny, you are a leader. If you're also unable to do it, then there's a problem. Of course, there are now issues of what are those attributes we expect of a leader. There are quite a number of them, and let me start with one that many people might find mundane. Is a physical appearance. When I say physical appearance, I include both the health of that individual and the look of the individual. It looks mundane, but there are actually things that shows that people sometimes judge leadership. People judge people they want to listen to by how those people appear. So does he appear neat? When he speak, does he speak all right? Does he look all right? That is the health side of things. All those things, it may look on the surface, but they matter in leadership. Then you now have to start going to the issues that are more critical. Vision.
Okay.
Does he have a vision, or is just blabbing all over the whole place? If somebody doesn't have a destination to go to, so where is he taking the followership? So the vision is important. The capacity to communicate. Can he communicate the vision? This is where I'm taking you guys to. Am I able to communicate that to you? A leader must have a knowledge of the work to be done. He needs to understand it. And he needs to have the intelligence to be able to make people deliver on those jobs. You see, intelligence comes from two sides. There's the emotional side of things.
Okay.
And there is also the fact that in the real world, it is about solving problems. There will be difficulty, there will be problems. So the intelligence to be able to navigate those landmines of difficulties and problems must be there. It doesn't necessarily mean that he will be that super being who has all the knowledge to fix all those issues. No. His role, like I said, at the heart of leadership is influence. So he must be able to influence all the people that will make it possible for those problems to be solved. But to even be able to do that, you must be intelligent yourself.
Okay, yes. Earlier, when you talked about leadership and you mentioned the word influence, something struck. What about leaders who have influence on people, but the influence is not driven towards a positive direction? The influence is on the negative. And that particular influence can drive those people who are taken under the wings of the influence of such leadership to do things that are detrimental to society, would that person still be in the stead of leader? Or is it that our definition of leadership is only in the positive direction and we don't put into consideration the negative effects that it might have if people are led wrongly?
On a general basis, the answer will be yes.
He still remains a leader.
He's still a leader. It's just a devilish or an evil leader leading people in the wrong direction. But the fact that he has the capacity to influence means that he's leading and people are following. So it is still leadership in a way. But where we now start to drill further down is when you narrow down all these plenty things I've been talking about to two major qualities of a leader. One is competence, the other is character. So that kind of a leader that is leading people in the wrong direction might have the competence, might be a very smart person. He has communication skills. Hitler was a very powerful communicator, so he has communication skills. He's able to, arouse people, make them follow him in whatever direction he's going. But he may lack character. So that person, though is a leader, is not the kind of all-round leader that we like to see, because those kind of leadership will not take people to the right destiny. They're not going to the right destination, and they will rather mislead the people.
Okay, now looking at those contesting for elections come 2023 and having watched their campaigns, the popular ones have had a taste of politics in the time past, which they are using as a selling point. Now, how can the antecedents of these persons, determine his or her capability or capacity in vying for futuristic leadership positions and to be able to deliver?
You see, we Nigerians must not be carried away with what happens at rallies. When you go to rallies are one-directional communication. I've heard some of those things you played before now. They were coming from rallies. And what happened at rallies is this one-directional communication. In those one-directional communication, a man mounts the podium, and all you hear is, I will give you light, I will give you power, I will give you this. Those things, they don't mean anything. They are zero value. They don't mean anything. And nobody questions them, because they hold the mic in a rally. So we need to look more at those engagements that are engaging, if I may say.
Okay.
Where it's not just a one-way traffic. Somebody is saying, another person is responding, and there are questions. Because the devil is in the details. So when that guy said, I will give you power, if it's a proper engagement, somebody can say, can you walk us through exactly what you intend to do or how you intend to approach this? So it is in the course of all of that you begin to feel some of those attributes of a leader that I've spoken about. Does he understand the work on the table? Does he understand it? Does he have the intelligence to carry it through? Is he even able to communicate what he has in his mind? Does he have a vision on that particular issue that he's talking about? And what is his vision? How does he integrate several other segments of what he intends to do? So those smaller engagements are part of what we need to listen to. In fact, they are much more important. All those rally stuff, I will do this, I will do that, they are absolute nonsense. They don't mean anything.
Okay, Mr. Gbolahan, let me come in here. I want to say this because when they throw out when they make those statements, I will do this, I will do that, and I will do the other. These political parties, they put out manifestos and they script them down. So when the leader just voiced it out in the rally that I'm going to do this, that, and the other, maybe he was just talking. But now since they've put it down and sold it out to the electorates, and the electorates have bought it and elected XYZ into office, that particular manifesto, that document that portrays the promises, how can that document be used as an instrument in a statutory means to hold them responsible within their tenure in elective office to make sure that they give flesh to that piece of paper?
Let's start from how manifestos are done around here, at least. You have some eggheads who sit in a room. They are probably from various segments of the society, and they knock together this wonderful document. Now, that is not out of place. Normally, that is what you're going to see in any setting. You know, maybe an expert in oil and gas. Let's say oil and gas is a major issue for us to talk about. So you bring experts in that field. You bring experts in security because security is a challenge. You bring experts in all of this. And they knock together this nice document and say, this is what we will do. Now, there has to be a buy-in of that leader himself.
Okay.
Because most of the times, there is a disconnect between the paper, that paper you call manifesto that you're looking at, and what the leader has in his own head. Sometimes, I dare say, some of those leaders have never read the manifesto. So, if the man who is going to be at the driver's seat has not sat down and read the document, how can he be held responsible for a document he never read and doesn't believe in? Which is why he goes to those people go to those rallies and just promise heaven and earth. And that's how they've been promising it for 24 years. Really. You know. However, we can begin to tie things in a better way if we adopt what I will call a system of performance management.
Performance management.
Yes. Performance management, you see, part of what somebody will tell you in a rally, for example, is I will do road infrastructure. Let's say, for example, somebody is talking about road infrastructure. So, road infrastructure, when in performance management, you can begin to dovetail something as ambiguous as road infrastructure into kilometers. How many kilometers of road will it be in a year? Where would they be? So someone will say, oh, I'm going to do 1,000 kilometers of road. It will be 200 each, 200 in each of the geopolitical regions. Now, what has happened with that is that it has become measurable.
Okay.
So at the end of the year, we can say, so he said he was going to give us 1,000 kilometers of road in year one. How many kilometers has been delivered? That becomes measurable. It is totally different from I will give you road. If the guy has given you 200 kilometers of road, he has given you road. Yes. But if there is a target, that is how performance management works. Okay. Today, when government says our budget performance is 60%, especially say on the capex, now our capex budget performance is 60%. They do not mean that those projects has been executed to 60%. What they are saying is that we have parted with 60% of the money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the availability of funds or the allocation of funds to those specific projects will be seen as the performance.
That is what they call performance in the public sector, at least here in Nigeria. Now the question is, does it necessarily translate to what we can see on the ground? The answer is no. If you take an NDDC, for example, over 13,000 projects, money left, project cannot be seen. So we cannot measure performance in the manner in which we are measuring performance.
Okay.
We must dovetail those documents, those manifestos. Let the leader know that this manifesto that is here, we will translate into something that is measurable, and we will use it to hold it to account on performance.
Okay, on that case, who do we give that responsibility of holding leadership to account? Now, we know that it said that Nigerians should hold their leaders account, but that question or that statement is rather ambiguous. Who are the Nigerians? Now, Nigerians want to be led, and that is why they elect leaders into positions of authority. That's why they have institutions, ministries, departments, agencies. What's that particular, if we want to give it a statutory means of holding leaders to account, okay, fine, the legislative arm of government is there, but they're equally politicians. So who do we give this to hold the executive organ of government or the legislators themselves who are representing different constituencies, who have promised heaven and earth in their different constituencies, in making their promise a reality?
It will have to be the civil society that will be at the driver's seat of this, because you cannot trust the politicians to hold themselves to account. They've not done well with that in the past, and we are not sure that they will begin to do that. But there are major organizations in this country that will help, that are not political organizations. For example, any promise made on the economic side of things, we could ask the Nigerian Economic Council, NESG, Nigerian
Economic Summit
Group, to hold them to account. What it means is that all those economic promises will translate them to things that are measurable, and NESG will communicate what those targets are clearly. It could be everywhere. Put it on a website, put it in the papers and whatever. And then at appraisal period, it could be 6 months, it could be quarterly, it could be a year. They can also go back and look at those things and say, this is how this particular administration has delivered on all those economic promises that it made. It can be done.
Okay. Now, sometimes society threw up leaders by saddling them or saddling on them the problems that needs to be solved as responsibilities. The example I wanted to give is what happened then in France a long time ago about the French Revolution. But I don't want to use that because they were not in a democratic setting then. In this democratic system of government that we have, society, it is obvious the different challenges that Nigeria as a country is facing. And when leaders come, they use those, or when prospective leaders come who vying for public office, they use those as the platform to say, this, you've been suffering from this, that, and the other. From electricity, you've been suffering from insecurity, like you said earlier. I am going to fix this problem. And at the end of the day, they are still not fixed. Okay, let's move on. At what point should we try new ones which seem to be, that can hold leadership to account? At what point would we try new mechanisms and new procedures apart from the CLOs that you mentioned, the civil liberty organizations and the CSOs?
The alternative is to think about certain legislation. For example, in the US, you have what you call midterm elections. Midterm elections are actually a vote of confidence or otherwise on the party that is at the center. And where there are lapses here and there, things could turn at midterm. And how things turn is that the legislative arm could switch from dominance by one party to dominance by the other party. Sorry. And they could render the administration impotent. And they also begin to set the tone for what will happen in the next election.
Midterm elections. Did the midterm elections leads to ousting those who have been voted out, or is just an election within the terms of policies execution?
It's an election that changes the lawmaking dynamics, the structure.
Okay.
Now, that structure is critical to the success of the reigning party, the ruling party. As a matter of fact, if that thing changes in a way that is unfavorable to the ruling party, that president becomes a lame duck from that point, because he will not be able to get through any policy direction. And essentially, what they are communicating to that particular leader is that you need to tweak all these your policies, and if he doesn't tweak them, he won't get anything done along the line he is pursuing. Apart from that, it begins to set the tone for the next election as well. So that leader may start to know from that point what kind of task he will have at hand when the next election comes.
Okay, before we
but that is statutory there.
Okay.
Now here, we don't have anything like that. So can we begin to look at a legislation in that direction that is able to check leaders before the end of their term? So that we don't have to wait an entire 4 years.
Okay.
Which is why this periodic appraisal that I spoke about,
yes,
could make it more structured. As a matter of fact, President Jonathan then had set up a department for performance management at the presidency. The only problem was that I cannot remember exactly what that department did. So if there is also a government who is willing to hold itself to account and set up and empower a similar agency who will give you your performance as it is, we might be moving in the right direction.
If that administration, or if such agency is appointed by the executive arm of government, will it be able to give an unbiased assessment of the issues?
Well, it depends on how it is created. If it is, like you said, if it is just by the executive, no. But if there are certain powers behind that kind of an institution that makes it a bit on the independent side, or that restricts how you can remove or how you can remunerate that kind of a department, then it starts to take a new dimension.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me come in here. Do remember that you can call into the program 0700 1021 1021, and you can send in WhatsApp messages on 0907 224 5018. I'm still having a conversation with Gbolahan Olojade. We are talking about leadership, and we are putting into context the political space in Nigeria with 2023 general elections in focus. Before we go on a break, let me ask this question. The issue about the legislative arm of government themselves, they are politicians.
Correct.
Where do we begin to separate politics and governance? There seems to be this misconception that if you are a legislator in the House of Assembly or in the Senate on the platform of XYZ political party, and that XYZ political party is the reigning political party at the center, and when policies are contrary and the execution of those policies are not working in consonance with the demands of the people that you are governing, and you raise your head up to come against those policies belonging to the same political party, it is perceived and seen as anti-party activities, and some of them are being suspended in that. So where do we draw the line between politics and governance?
You see, it goes to the root of the matter is that we don't even, in the first instance, have political parties in the correct sense of political parties.
How do you mean?
What I meant is, if you take the American example or a UK example, those parties, there are things that they are known for. There are what you call the political ideologies.
Okay.
So if a Democratic Party is in power in America, we know how they will deal with matters of taxes, international relations, defense, and all of that. We have an idea of the direction they will lead. If it is the Republicans, it is also the same way. In fact, politically conscious Nigerians can talk about, Republican policies. You cannot speak likewise about any Nigerian party, because in Nigeria there are no ideologies. Political parties as they are in Nigeria today are mere platforms for achieving political ambition. And when one party doesn't give you, you simply go to the other. In fact, if the next one doesn't give you, you go to a third. You can come back to the first one where you came from. There is nothing differentiating the parties other than that they are platform, because we don't have independent candidacy anyway. So for you to achieve anything, you must first of all belong to a party. That is the root of the problem that we're going to be having to deal with when it comes to lawmakers' alignment and the rest of them.
How do we begin to solve this problem from the roots? If it's about ideologies, how do we begin to solve this particular problem, looking at it from the educational perspective, from the academics, down from the primary school to secondary school and from to tertiary institutions?
Incidentally, we have had strong parties in this country before with reasonable ideologies. In the Second Republic, if this is a UPN state, it's going to be free education, free health. You already know some of those things that are there. And if it is MPN, if it is, all those things were much more clearer than what we have today. So in today's situation, incidentally, we need strong leadership to help us build strong institutions. And after the institutions are maturing, as they mature, then they become stronger than individuals. As it is today, unless we have that strong leadership for But each of these parties who can drive the ideology things, we're still very far from where we need to go as far as parties are concerned.
Okay.
When we have those things in place, when we have those ideologies, it becomes easier for members to line up behind party ideologies. Number one. Number two is that the lawmakers as we have them today are largely selfish people. What concerns them is not the constituency, it is themselves. So until accountability at the level of constituency also becomes more important.
Okay.
What do I mean by that? Today, how many lawmakers have been recalled in Nigeria before? I mean,
There was an attempt
to do a couple of them that did not work out. Yes. I know Dino wants her to face that.
Exactly.
The average Nigerian has not even shown interest in who are the lawmakers. From at the state level, we'll ask him who is representing. He doesn't know. At the federal level, he doesn't know who is the senator for his constituency. He doesn't know who is the member of the House of Rep. And he doesn't come out to vote when it comes to voting for these people.
Okay. Mr. Bola, I'll need to stop you here. We'll need to quickly go on a break. And when we return, our conversation continues. Do remember that you can call in 0700 1021 1021 and send in WhatsApp messages on 0907224518. What are the leadership qualities you expect the next Nigerian leader to have at the presidential level, the governorship level, and as the legislator representing your constituency, either in the Senate, the House of Representatives, or the House of Assembly of your state? To join us again.
Young and intellectual, experienced and exposed, or strategic and street smarts? Out of these three, which will you pick as your leader?
Experience and exposed.
Why?
Because experience is the more as an important thing for this country.
I think experience and expose.
Okay, why?
Because when someone that has experience can be able to plan things that even no one can tell, and then he will be able to lead the country very well.
Wait, let me think.
I'll take young and very intellectual, of course, yes.
Why?
Yeah, you see, they have this energy, of course, and of course they are exposed and they know what people are actually demanding for.
We young now our brain they active fast.
Actually.
Because now they suffer because what Papa did here.
I pick young and intellectual.
Why?
Because they still have the energy and they still have the ability to rule the country.
Like everybody know how things are going on. Like all those people, all those old people, they don't have more that sense like that anymore. Their sense are weak. That's all I could see.
Somebody who, in the first place, we want somebody who has experience and somebody that is still young. Somebody that's still young, that the brain is still functioning. Somebody that above 70, 60, 70 has gone beyond the,
grandpa.
They say grandpa now. Yes. But those young ones that has come, the brain is still vibrant. They can still do something. They can still remember something. Oh, this is what we have to do. And this is what we have not to do. Those are the kind of person we want.
So you're telling me you want to mix your answer, young and intellectual, experienced and exposed.
Yeah, that is what I mean.
On record.
Every word matters.
Oh my God. Oh. It be like say they won't tell us what we never hear before. To Baba Deya, plus Soli Baba Deya, Sabada Badam Dabadam De Dabadam De Dabadam De. No be smarting, no be smarting, no be smarting. I said no be smarting, no be smarting, no be smarting. Hey. Looking back to all the years that you and I have spent together, it seems like you've been playing me all along. So many times you asked me to put the whole of my trust in you. So many times you betrayed me and played me for a fool. Why don't we work together so the future will be brighter? Cause it be like you and I, we didn't need each other all the time. All the time. Another year has come, and now you want my trust once more. No, it be like say you want to tell me another story again. It be like say you want to act another movie again. It be like say you want to go another coding again. It be like say you want to dance, la nothing you dance again.
On record,
every word matters.
I am suggesting to you that Africa is not going to grow as long as you who are in positions of leadership have perfected the art of appealing to the stomachs rather than the minds of the men and women that you lead.
On record,
every word matters.
Welcome back, and many thanks for joining us on the program. That voice again, Professor Patrick Lumumba, and Professor of Law. We're still talking about leadership, and Bola Olojade is still here with us. You can participate on calling 0700 1021 1021 and send WhatsApp messages on 0907 224 5018. Are you conscious of voting for any candidates, the legislative position of power, or are you just going to vote for the president and the governorship positions and you are done? Those are the questions we are putting across to you, and the qualities you expect the next Nigerian leaders to have. Those are the questions we are putting across to you. Mr. Bola Olojade, we have very few moments to spend. There are a number of people that have given up on elections. They don't have the intention of casting their ballot. How will their non-challenge affect the outcome of the elections in 2023?
Well, it may cause a wrong leader to emerge. That's how it affects. And the leader, whether you like it or not, whether you were concerned at election or you were not, will still make decisions that will affect your life. So the right thing is to participate. In fact, it is a civic duty. Responsible citizens should be interested in who leads them. And part of being responsible as far as election is concerned is go cast your own vote for the candidate of your choice, somebody you are convinced about. Cast your vote and be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Okay, I think we have a message here. Let me quickly take that before we continue. It says, "Good morning, Shola from Berger. It is really exciting to hear your guest this morning. I have some questions. Is leadership inbuilt, or people grow to just become a leader?" That's the first question. The second question says, "What do you do when a leader that was influencing become influenced, like what the current president's wife said? It's not okay. I'm not going to exceed that particular position." But I think the first question says, is leadership inbuilt, or people grow to just become a leader?
It is both, because when you look at the attribute that makes a good leader, there are some of them that are inbuilt. Intelligence. You could just be naturally brilliant, intelligent, but then the knowledge of the problem cannot be inbuilt. You have to know, you have to study, you have to, before you can understand what the problem you're trying to solve is all about. You can have a good physical attribute and health. It could be born with you, but then things like communication skills, even communication skills, some of it could be natural. But what is important is that it is possible to learn most of these attributes. If you're not a good communicator, for example, you can learn to be better at communication. If you're not someone who understands what the problems are, you can learn to study the problems and have a good understanding of what the problem is. So it's a mix of the two. There are people who are born as like what you can call a natural leader. As they are born, they have certain traits that are very critical to being a successful leader. Then Apart from that nature, you can now layer what you call nurture on top of nature to have a total man. In the real sense, all those attributes, you can hardly ever find a single man that embodies all the attributes. So where there are gaps, you must be able to find a way to bridge those gaps.
Okay. How do you then grow into keeping to your word? How do you grow into building infrastructure? How do you grow into solving problems that are facing the people you govern right in the face, and be sensitive to those people and to their needs, and solving that particular problems by putting those needed structures in place? How do we grow into that if it is not inbuilt, or can something of that nature be inbuilt?
It is largely inbuilt. That is the empathy side of things that you are talking about. Empathy is different from sympathy. In empathy, what you're trying to do is you're trying to walk in the shoes of that other guy. It is in the process of trying to walk in his shoes that you begin to understand why he says what he says, why he thinks the way he thinks. So if I'm a leader now in Nigeria and I said, oh, some people are agitating, the way for me to really understand what all this issue is all about is to try and walk in their shoes, see things from their perspective, and then that is empathy. It is only then that I can address their issue the right way a leader should address the issues. The same thing goes with several other things. I've seen governors visiting sites of disasters, and they are crispy in flowing agbada, and I don't understand how you connect a site of disaster, death and all the rest of them all over the place, and you go there in this well-starched flowing agbada to go and do what? You don't even understand what leadership is all about in the first instance. You should show empathy, show concern, so that you understand what the people all around there are going through. The same in fact, empathy is so critical. Even fuel crisis. A man who doesn't buy fuel, who probably doesn't even know how much a liter of fuel costs, how does he begin to understand what the people are going through when they say they can't get fuel? He doesn't have the problem for. It is empathy that will make you to be able to put yourself in the shoe and say, what happens if I'm also not able to get to where I need to get to today? That's empathy. It's a very critical thing, and it's largely inborn, but then nurture helps to solidify empathy. Nurture, how you were brought up and the things you are exposed to could nurture empathy.
Okay. As we begin to round up, let me quickly reel out some statistics here, which is very, very important that our listeners take a very good listening to. In 2021, there was a federal legislative by-election that was held in Aba North, Aba South Federal Constituency of Abia State. Only about 3 in 100 registered voters showed up to vote in the election. 3. Also in Ifako Ijai Federal Constituency election, which was held in December 2020, had a voter turnout of 2.9%, with 9,884 people voting out of the 339,864 registered voters.
Imagine.
Likewise, in the state legislative election that was held in September 2017 at Etiosa, turnout was 3.42%, as only 6,280 votes were recorded out of 183,551 registered voters for the elections. That's a very, very not encouraging, and it's an indication of the way Nigerians at the ebb of society think about the legislative arm of government. They only attach relevance and significance to the president and the governorship positions. Why are not attaching that value to the legislative arm of government? And the second question is, which is going to be the last, you, Mr. Bola Olojide, what are the qualities you look forward to the next president in Nigeria and those who will be governing as governors at the subnational level?
Well, the reality, the data shows it, that people are not showing interest in lawmaking, in who becomes their representative at those chambers. And I believe it has to be a deliberate awareness campaign. There's a room for citizens' education to let them know how important these roles are. Those lawmakers you're looking at there, they can determine whether the president will be able to lift a finger or not. And if they are compromised, it could be a disaster for a country that has its lawmakers compromised, that, like we have had in certain situations, even in this country. So it is a big room for citizens' education to begin to enlighten us on how and why these people are important, and for more credible people to begin to show up to fill those positions. Today, I marvel at some of the leadership I've seen at the local government level, for example. And now that we're talking of local government autonomy and all the rest of it, I'm wondering how many billions you actually want to entrust into some of the people I've seen at the local government leadership level. You're going to give this much billion in the hand of this guy? Of course, there are fantastic ones. I mean, I'm not putting everybody in the same bucket, but leadership is at various levels, and we must begin to recognize that fact that at the local government level, at the state level, at the lawmaking level, they are all very critical. In fact, the closer they are to you, the more impactful they are to you. The man sitting in Abuja does not know that your gutter is filled up with rubbish and I will flood at the next ring. But the guy who is at the local government or who is at the ward level should know, and is in a better position to help you solve that problem.
Okay. The qualities of those leaders.
I will take the position of the summary of what a good leader should, and it is character and competence. Is this leader competent? Does he understand what the problem is? Does he have the intelligence? Does he have the communication? Those competencies. If he doesn't have certain critical competencies, don't even go there. Then the character could erode anything, any competence that anybody might have. He may know it, but because of the flawed character, he may not go in that right direction. So look out for those things that tell you about the character as well as the competence of an individual. And the person that best fits the bill is the person you should be voting for.
Okay, thank you so much. Bola Olojade, policy analyst, leadership expert, and a lot of things to many people, because when they bring you on, they give you a designation they think that fits you. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Bola Olojade.
My pleasure.
And thank you to our listeners too. Tomorrow is another time to join us again. We will be having the Lagos Sector Commander of the Federal Road Safety Corps, Mr. Olusegun Ogungbemide. I hope I got that right. Have you got questions for him? Kindly send a message to our WhatsApp line on 0907-224-5018. I am Oyepriye Krumale. Good morning to you.
On record.
Every word matters.
Welcome to On Record.
Every word matters.
What I want to do is to take Nigeria from consumption to production.
My name is Mr. Innocent Chuboma. I started by trading on motorcycle spare parts.
They really ask, how much is the Nigerian life worth?
Policing is everybody's business, not the business of the men on uniform alone.
We will establish student loan 4 years course, but before years course.
When you dispense, a pharmacist dispenses a drug to a patient, the name of the drug must be written on the envelope.
On Record is a 45-minute program where we discuss the actions, inactions of government, ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as business and health affairs that shape our worldview.
Join us 9 a.m. every weekday on your urban lifestyle station, High Impact 102.1 FM. On Record.
Every word matters.